Hi Doug, Cockle. It's nice to have you here. Really pleased
Hello.
to be able to sit down with you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm very well.
So usually I'll just start off by asking you to tell me a little bit about who you are and your career in voice acting.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, my name is Doug. I have been a professional actor for over 25 years. Um, I got into voice acting in 1999 when I first moved to the UK. I live in the UK, but I'm American. So strange thing. I met a beautiful British lady, and she dragged me across the pond, as it were. So Um, yeah, 1999, I got started in voiceovers. Just moved to the UK, and I met an agent, and she sent me to an audition for a video game. And it was a video game called Independence War 2 Edge of Chaos, with a company called Outsource Media, who are still operating today. And I got the lead role, and that was my beginning into video games. And that role led to other roles. And eventually, I became Geralt of Rivia in the Witcher video game series, which I is a role I still provide the voice for, at least as far as
That's
I know.
no, I think that's the main one, and I'm definitely gonna get around to that because how could you not? I played so much of The Witcher 3. It's absolutely just a fantastic game. Geralt is such a good character. Um,
Yeah.
and you do such a fantastic job as him. Um,
Oh, thank you.
as you mentioned, you've got quite a long history, 25 years of acting experience, but obviously that's not all voice acting. Um, so you've been on things like Band of Brothers. My dad loves that, and so yeah, how does voice acting and live action compare for someone like an actor? What are your favorite parts of each?
Oh, wow. Well, my first love is live theater. Um, that was what I was trained for, and it's what I and it's what I loved doing. I still love doing it. Um, I haven't done a lot of it recently. I mean, ironically, having said that, I'm actually going to be performing in a play um, at the end of March. Um, a new play by a playwright named Mary Gage, and I've been invited to play the brother of the main character um, in a very short run. That's more about kind of getting the play on its feet and potentially raising some more money uh, to take it further. But I'll be doing that at the end of March in State College, Pennsylvania, which is going to be great fun. It'll be the first time I've actually performed live on stage in well over 10 years. I mean, I perform live all the time because every time you perform in front of a camera or on mic or whatever, you're live, obviously. Um, but it's different when there's a live audience there. It's a different energy. And I do love that. Um, and yes, working on camera is different from live theater, obviously. Obviously to me, um, maybe not obviously to people watching this. Um, and voice acting is even more different. But the differences between them all are really fundamentally technical. The differences are, in the theater, you have the live audience and everything's live. So if you make a mistake, something goes wrong, something unexpected happens, you have to deal with it live in front of the audience. You can't, there's no, the director isn't going to call cut. Um, so you have to deal with things that happen. That's part of what makes it so exciting and so much fun, um, is that it is different every time. Um, it's different every time for screen and voiceover as well. It's just a different kind of different. sounds weird, doesn't it? It just sounds nuts. What are you talking about? Different kind of different. Okay. The way I explain it, voice acting is different from other kinds of acting, uh, primarily in that if you're working in theater or on camera, you have you typically have other actors who you're responding to. You have a costume, you have a set or a location, um, and all these things are helping you as the actor to find the truth of that character in that moment. Um, costume, set, other actors who you're responding to, that those are all important things for an actor. In voice acting, you typically don't have that. Sometimes if other actors have recorded before you, you might the director might play the other actor's recorded line for you to then respond to. But you don't have a costume, you don't have a set. You're in a quiet box with a window where you can see through to the engineer and the director, and you've got a pair of headphones on your head, and you're talking into a microphone. Um, so you don't have the other stuff that you have when you work on camera or on stage. So I always, the way I think of it is that as an actor, you have to engage your imagination more and differently when you're doing voice acting. You have to imagine the costume. You have to imagine the set or the location. You have to imagine the other actors, the other characters. So that's how it's different. How it's the same, though, is that fundamentally what you're doing is you're giving life to a character. You're trying to find the character's truthful response to stimulus. That's not a definition of acting. It could be, though, I suppose.
It's I get what you mean. Kind of like finding the heart of the character. I
Yeah.
imagine that, like you kind of indicated just there, there's like an energy when you're doing things live and in front of an audience. Do you ever try to like, again, I don't know how it works. Do you ever imagine that in your head when you're performing in front of a camera or in a booth or something?
No, I don't. Other people might. I don't know. I've never asked. That's an interesting question. Uh, I don't. I am very much in the space that I'm in, whatever that may be. And that's partly because see, I teach acting as well, and I often explain to students, at least from my perspective, when you're acting, you need to be 90% the character and 10% the actor. 90% the character who's living through this moment of time, in whatever this moment of time is, doing what they're doing, and 10% of you is the actor who is making sure that they put the right inflection on the line, um, that they don't hurt anybody or themselves, that they find their light, that they speak the lines that they've memorized, and they do their job as an actor. Um, so it's kind of that. I've forgotten what your question was now. I get all philosophical when
No,
I
that's
talk
okay.
about
No,
acting. It's
I
my
get it.
it's my thing.
It's I think anybody's like that about the, like the passions. Um, I I mean the answer is no. Like I think, but like I really enjoy kind of like just picking the minds of whoever it is I'm talking to. Um,
Yeah.
I like the philosophical approaches, although you do. I feel that you've got quite a professional outlook on it as well. Like that idea of you'll see like news stories or something of someone going too far with method acting or the
Mm.
like. But yeah, I think remembering the acting part is something you don't really hear as much. Like that you are the actor as well.
Yeah, I think even the people who go really far, the Daniel Day-Lewises of this world, who is a remarkable actor, don't get me wrong, I admire him greatly. his approach to his work is not something I personally
Mhm.
want to do for myself. But it works for him. So, more power to you. Yeah, I'm very much an actor of the sort that is much more the Laurence Olivier to the Dustin Hoffman of this world. Do you know that story?
I don't actually.
Okay, yeah, I'll probably hash it a little bit, but basically the story is in the film Marathon Man. If you haven't seen it, it's a great film made in the 70s, I want to say, I think.
Okay.
Um, and I haven't seen it in a very long time. I won't tell you the plot of the story or anything, but there's a scene in that film in which Dustin Hoffman, his character, has been running, and he's exhausted. And the scene is with Laurence Olivier. And Laurence Olivier, I mean, we you know who Dustin Hoffman is, don't you?
Yes,
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
yeah. I assume that everybody else does as well. Laurence Olivier might be little bit of a stretch. Laurence Olivier was a renowned English actor, famous especially for his work with Shakespeare, but
Yeah, I
he was
think I
also
recall him doing Othello. I think.
I that's entirely possible. I don't know if he did or didn't. I have some kind of inkling that he might have.
Yeah.
He famously played Henry V,
Mm.
um, and made a film, I believe, of Henry V as well. Anyways, he was a very famous, renowned English actor. Um, and Dustin Hoffman was a young rising star in Marathon Man. I don't think he'd quite found complete fame yet. He wasn't as famous as he is now. Marathon Man was part of the development of his fame, but he was still a well-known actor. And Dustin Hoffman was a bit of a method actor. Laurence Olivier wasn't really. But anyways, in preparation for this scene, Dustin Hoffman, um, it's a bit apocryphal, so I don't know how much of this is actual truth and how much of it is a good story. But the story goes, Dustin Hoffman, in order to prepare for this scene, he stayed up all night and he ran. So just before the scene was to be filmed, he just ran and got himself exhausted, and then showed up for the scene. And Laurence Olivier kind of said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm preparing for the scene." And he says, "My boy, why not just act?"
That's good.
So,
That is funny.
and yeah, it is funny.
And
I'm much more of the Laurence Olivier type of
mm,
actor than I am of the Dustin Hoffman.
yeah, it's got a kind of classic feel to it, kind of
Mm,
like a different kind of Hollywood, you know.
yeah, absolutely. I think I had a colleague when I was teaching full time. I used to run a course, a BA honors acting course here in the UK, and I had a colleague who was the production manager for the course and all the productions we did. And he used to say, "There's two kinds of actors in this world." This is something that someone told him, but I love it. There's two kinds of actors in this world: eyebrows up and eyebrows down, and that's it.
Simplicity,
Yeah.
simplicity itself.
Sorry, I'm double fisting it here today with my drinks. I've got a peppermint tea in this mug, and my wife just brought me a coffee in this mug.
Nice. So you get the
So,
choice. I don't know if they
yeah,
blend too well.
I don't know. We'll find
From
out. What
one
do
to
we
the
see what
next
we think?
at the same time.
Ooh, it's hot.
um, yeah, okay. So, without kind of, beating around the bush, you're Geralt of Rivia, right? At least the Geralt of Rivia
Well,
that many
I'm one
people
of
recognize.
three. I'm one of
Yes.
three. There's me. There's Henry Cavill. I do the video games. Henry Cavill, obviously, is Netflix Witcher. And then there's uh Peter Kenny. Peter Kenny did the audiobooks. So there are three Geralt of Rivias in this world. Well, they're more than that actually,
Mm.
because there was a Polish TV series, and I don't remember the name of the actor who played Geralt in that, but technically, I suppose then there are four Geralts, and then if you count all the localization actors, so all the French Geralt, the Spanish Geralt, the Japanese Geralt. I think there's a Chinese Geralt, certainly the Polish Geralt. Um, you know,
There's a
I guess
litany.
there's
There's the
there's
litany
a
of
litany
Geralts.
of Geralts,
You should
yes,
have like a
but
club,
we
exclusive
should
membership. Your little
we should have a
clubhouse.
party. Yeah, we
Yeah,
should have a party where all
everybody
the
would
Geralts from
bring.
around the world get together.
Well,
It's even with all the other voice actors and stuff who played Geralt in the localizations. There's probably only about 15 of us, maybe.
mm. So you're one of 15 um,
Yeah.
Geralt.
I
About
suppose what I can say is that the as far as I know, anyways, um, the English Geralt was always the first recorded Geralt.
so kind of like Geralt
So
Prime.
yeah,
Geralt Prime.
well,
um,
the first recorded Geralt in the video games, anyways.
yeah. So obviously you played Geralt throughout Witcher 1, 2, and 3. And the Witcher series and CD Projekt Red as well um, went from very quite niche to this huge multi-million-dollar
Mm.
behemoth. What does it feel like to kind of have been on the ground floor for that? Did you ever expect it to get to this point?
No, um, The Witcher was. mm, I didn't even know about it. I was cast as Geralt of Rivia in this game called The Witcher, and at that point, the books were only out in Polish and German, I think. They hadn't been translated into English. So I knew nothing about the Witcher world. And neither did most of the West because, most of the West didn't speak Polish, couldn't read the books. So it just hadn't really traveled very far outside of Poland, um, Eastern European countries. So when I got involved, I knew nothing. The guys from CD Projekt who were working with me in recording Witcher One, they had to explain the Witcher world to me. There was some concept art that kind of helped me understand a little bit more, um, but I knew nothing. So it wasn't actually, and it was just another job. I mean, it was a lovely job, and I love every job I go in and do because I love what I do. Um, but particularly the high fantasy kind of work, I really enjoy that because I'm a high fantasy fan myself. Lord of the Rings all the way. I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons. Um, I love those kinds of worlds. So the Witcher world was completely new to me, and yet it was also very familiar. But when we recorded Witcher One, it was just this game by a small developer who'd never made a game like that before. So it was exciting, but it was, there was no real buzz around it. There was, it wasn't like I was joining the Uncharted franchise or something like that. It was completely new. So Witcher One came out, and it developed kind of a cult following, and when we came to recording Witcher Two, um, there was a little bit of a buzz, but not much. Um, CD Projekt was very ambitious, and they really went for it with Witcher. I mean, this is true of them from the beginning. I think CD Projekt has never been shy about doing it big. I mean, Witcher One was doing it big for them at that time. Witcher Two, they upped the game again, to make this huge game compared to Witcher One. But the following on, going into Witcher Two was not large. It was a cult favorite. Witcher 2 came out and people loved it, thought it was great, and it developed more of a buzz. But still, um, at least in terms of my own perception of how big it was. Um, nobody came, no, nobody wanted to talk to me. It was another good game out there, and people enjoyed it, and it got CD Projekt a bigger following. And then in the lead up to Witcher 3, there was a lot of press. There was I mean, there CD Projekt, not a lot of press for me, um, but CD Projekt was pushing it again because they upped their game again, and there was definitely an expectation from CD Projekt that this was going to be a big game. Um, I was still just doing my job. I knew it was going to be a big game. I knew it was going to be bigger than Witcher 2. I knew that it was, it had the likelihood to be really well received, but I didn't expect what happened, which was it just went bonkers. And I still didn't know. I still didn't know. It was probably 6 months or more after it came out that I started to get a sense of how big it was getting, how big it had become and was getting. But I was still recording the DLCs. I was recording Hearts of Stone in November of 2015, and then Blood and Wine in January, February, March, something like that of 2015. Um, I don't know. I think the point at which I started to realize that this was something special, I mean, really special, was when a guy named Robert Purchase from Eurogamer um, got in touch with me out of the blue and asked if he could come down to Bournemouth and interview me. And I was like, huh, nobody's ever wanted to interview me about games or anything. And I just suddenly, and we had a nice chat. And it was him who, off the record, in our conversation, he kind of went, Doug, do you have any idea how big this game is? And I was like, no. And he spat some statistics at me, and I was just like, wow, okay, well, yeah, that is big. But yeah, you have to understand, I was running a course at the time. I was full-time teaching and doing voiceover work part-time on the side. And I was completely and utterly, my time was monopolized by the teaching job. So what was happening with voice work that I had done wasn't even on my mind. It was there. Students knew I'd done it. They knew other games I'd done as well. So sometimes we talked about it, but it just never crossed my mind how big Witcher 3 was getting. That's a long story for a simple question, but it's kind of the truth of the journey I went on. I think it was one of those things that it snuck up on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was 2016 when I was nominated for a BAFTA. I'd been nominated for a number of different awards, but suddenly I was nominated for a BAFTA in the BAFTA Game Awards. And I was just like, what? This is insane.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's I didn't play any of the Witcher games until the third game as well. It's very rare that I just jump in the third installment of something, but it took me by surprise as well, just how outstanding yours and all the performances in the game were. There was this feeling that the world was very breathing and like alive, and all the stories kind of meant something as you went along, and it's kind of like that is used like the measuring stick now by which a lot of RPGs are judged.
mm,
And like obviously you've been along for the ride for the entirety of it, and I noticed, as many people have, that Geralt's voice generally, you can hear the shades of it in your voice, obviously,
mm.
but it changed a lot from the first to the second to the third game, especially. Did you have much input into that, or was it like a direct stylistic change that CD Projekt wanted to implement?
Well, what changes are you specifically referring to?
Sounds a lot gruffer, a lot more kind of gravelly, I think, in the third
Mm,
game.
well, I think. mm, hmm.
Did it just happen one day?
No, I think there's several answers to that question. One is that when I first started doing Geralt's voice in Witcher 1, it was a real push for me for my voice. It was hard work because it was so low in my register, and um and we were recording long days as well, so I remember my voice being very, very sore at the end of recording for Witcher 1 each day. Um, so it was a my voice was not used to going there. But by the time we recorded Witcher 2, I think having recorded Witcher 1 and having recorded some other characters who were kind of had a similar tone, um, over time, I trained my voice to go there. So now I can just go right into the Geralt grunt. It's not hard. It doesn't hurt. It just is what it is. So I just go there now. But other things happened. One, I quit smoking between Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, which probably freed up my vocal cords a little bit to go there easier. Um, and two, I grew older. Um, and the more I did Geralt's voice, the easier it became. I remember when we first started on Witcher 2, sorry, excuse me. When we first started on Witcher 2, uh, it was still a challenge to get down there for Geralt's voice. And I remember feeling quite worn at the end of a 4 hour, I think we did some 6 hour recording sessions early on in Witcher 2 as well. Um, so it was still taxing on my vocal cords. So I quit smoking. I grew older, and and like an athlete, vocal cords are they're muscles. Um, so like an athlete, I over time I trained those muscles to go there. Uh, yeah. So I
Well,
think that probably has affected,
mm,
you know, where he goes. But also there's something else that happened between Witcher 1 and Witcher 3 that I think is worth acknowledging. And that's that when we started recording Witcher 1, um, the guys at CD Projekt were adamant. They said, no emotion. He has no emotions. They were knocked out of him by the trial of the grasses. And I was just like, well, I'm an actor. I don't deal in no emotions. I deal in emotions. That's the whole point. It's that human experience. Oh, but he's not human, but he is. But no, he's a mutant. No, 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 no. The whole, you can, you know, all those arguments come back to me. Um, so I had to work hard to keep him flat, to not let him have an emotional reaction to whatever he was dealing with. But by the time we got to Witcher 3, and I was always pushing that envelope subconsciously or consciously sometimes, because I never felt that he had no emotions. I always felt that it was more that he couldn't afford to give in to his emotions. He had to keep them tightly under control. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to do his job. That's how I always felt about it. Um, and I think the books bear that out. I think, if you read the books, you can see that he does have emotions. He's he's a very emotional creature. Um, but he just chooses not to go there because he can't. Um, by the time we got to Witcher 3, I think a combination of me pushing it a little bit and also the writers discovering more of who Geralt is, they allowed him more of an emotional life. So by the time we got to Witcher 3, and certainly by the time we got to Blood and Wine, they were giving him the opportunity, giving me the opportunity to give Geralt that emotional life, which also, gives his voice more color. Because with emotion comes, you know, differences of pitch and, um, the feeling comes into the voice. And I certainly took what the writers offered me and ran with it. So I think that probably has quite an effect on the difference between Witcher 1 and Witcher 3.
I think those subtleties definitely come through because as someone who kind of jumped in at Witcher 3, you definitely get the feeling that he's quite kind of like buries like the emotional elements of himself kind of down, but they always kind of come out and he does the right thing in the end, usually. Um,
If you choose to let him do
if you
that.
choose to. I don't have the heart to not. Uh, also,
Yeah, I'm
also
like you.
whenever the fact that you did the Geralt voice there, I was just like, oh, ooh, that's Geralt. So
It
thank you.
comes out in funny places, because I mean, I'm speaking to you in my kind of normal everyday speaking voice,
Yeah,
but you know how you do this, we all do this, you're walking around the house and you're talking to yourself, right? So the Geralt voice now, in terms of my everyday life, it's just as simple as, I walk up to the sink and go, oh man, I gotta do the dishes,
that's
that kind of
incredible.
thing. It just
Yeah.
falls out of me now.
Well,
um
yeah. Whenever I'm with my younger brother Niall, we'll whenever it winds, we'll just turn and just go, "Winds howling." It's like my favorite quote. Um, that actually segues quite nicely into my next question because I can when we discussed the interview, I was like fielding around the office trying to because we've got a few big fans of The Witcher there just
hmm.
generally. One of them is the do you ever how uh, when you get like a sore throat or it's winter and you get that kind of hoarse throat, you just get turned into Geralt of Rivia.
I don't think so. I'd have to ask my wife about that, really. um I don't feel like I do. I mean, I do, like when I'm tired first thing in the morning, or late at night, or things like that. I sometimes notice that more of Geralt is falling out of my mouth than usual. That does happen, especially if I'm home alone and I'm just talking to myself while I'm walking around the house. Oh, gosh, I got to remember to do that. I got to remember to do this. I haven't had that invoice paid yet. It's just kind of, he's always there. He's always with me. I don't always notice when I'm channeling Geralt, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll hear myself and I just go, oh, there he is again. He's part of me. But what's really funny? Well, and I loved this. I started voicing another game recently called The Occultist, and a fantastic Spanish studio, indie studio, um, called Pentakill Studios, and they asked me to voice the protagonist of their game, The Occultist. So we did some recording for a gameplay sample, and the CEO of the company was listening in and directing me, and he finally explained that this character is actually English, and up to that point we've been messing around with an American voice, more of a Geralty kind of voice. And he said, oh well, he's actually from the north of England. I was like, oh, I can't do an English northern accent. I'm terrible at it. But I can do a kind of an RP. I can do an RP. Uh, and he was like, oh, okay, well, is that what he should be? And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, where has he lived? And we decided that he's lived in the south of England for a long time, so he's lost his northern accent. So I gave him an RP accent, and uh, what I realized was that I was sounding an awful lot like Henry Cavill doing Geralt's voice. So what I realized was I was uh, I was and you know Henry Cavill has said that you know my performance of Geralt was helped inspire his performance of Geralt, his vocal performance. So what I realized in The Occultist is that, to at least to a certain extent, I was channeling Henry, channeling me.
Like a cycle. Yeah,
Yeah, and the circle closes.
yeah, yeah. I had a question in here about that. Just generally, like that must be really crazy, because like not only have you kind of been on the ground floor of like The Witcher, created this iconic gaming voice, like up there with your Solid Snakes and Master Chief, um, but on top of that, you've also got Henry Cavill in a hit TV show, at least somewhat using your voice to craft his own version of Geralt. So it's like you've got tendrils in everything Witcher.
I do a bit, yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting, and uh, it's amazing to be part of. You know, it is an incredible thing to be a part of, and I feel honored and blessed to have been on this journey with Geralt. People often ask, you know, what's it like to be part of something like this? And I said, well, I mean, it is. I do feel blessed to be part of it. As an actor, though, it's a real blessing because the vast majority of actors, they just go from job to job to job, and they often don't go on the kind of journey I've been on with Geralt. You know, like it's like playing. For me, it's like playing a role in something like oh, what's the oh, just think of any TV series that's gone for like 6 or 7 seasons. You know, like Friends. You know, being on Friends or something like that. Um, because I've been voicing Geralt since 2005. That's a long relationship for an actor to have with a character. You know, you might, as an actor, play Hamlet 2 or 3 times in your career if you're really lucky, but that's different from because that'll be three distinct Hamlets because of where you are at that time in your life or whatever, you know, the production, the production design, the director's vision for the play, all of that. um and I suppose Geralt did change, but what I suppose what I'm saying is I've been voicing Geralt for something like 17 years. Is that right? 2005. Yeah,
Yes,
like
yes,
17
it is
years.
17. That's a long time.
That's that's a long time to be associated with a character.
That is a long time.
Um, so yeah, it's an amazing thing to have.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I guess that's part of like I guess that's why you can fold into it so well, and you're kind of intrinsically linked, I guess.
Mm,
As obviously we're a voiceover platform, um, I've got a technical-ish question. I'm just a lowly
sure.
marketer kind of guy, but I will try to relay it. Is a guy called Michael on the projects side. He absolutely loves The Witcher, so um, so when you're recording the lines for The Witcher 3, was it usually kind of like a, you know, because there is so much dialogue in it? Did you just go power through pretty much all one takes, or were there a lot of redos and pickups and things like that?
I think it's rare that you have one take. Um, it's been a long time since I recorded Witcher 3, but my recollection is that pretty much every line was recorded at least twice. just so that there could be some choice for the editors for CD Projekt. So we do it the first time, and then the director would often give me a little bit of direction. Sometimes it would just be, let's do one more for safety. And that's a common direction for a director to give. Just do one more just for safety. And then as the actor, you don't try to repeat the same delivery. You try to give something a little bit different. And then what would often happen is either the director would give me some more direction, emphasize this word, or can you give it just a little bit more energy, or, whatever the direction is. And I would, try to interpret that into the performance. Or the director would say to the engineer, I'll take number one, please. And then the engineer would mark the first take as the take that the director preferred. And then all those recordings would go to CD Projekt, and then CD Projekt would listen to what the director preferred, and probably, I don't know this, but probably listen to the other takes as well. And they might disagree. They might go, actually, we like the second take better. So that, it's very collaborative. It's a very collaborative process in many ways. Sometimes you do get it on the first take. Sometimes the director just goes, that's it. That's the one. But more often than not, they ask for a second take. So yeah, you're saying every line, at least two, sometimes three or four. Sometimes if the line is a bit challenging, like a lot of similar sounds coming one after the other, or words that are hard to say for whatever reason. I mean, this is relatively rare, but it happens often enough that I can say that it happens. Sometimes you just get stuck on a line. And then, I mean, there were probably lines that I had to try to say again and again and again because I was messing up, 15, 20 times. If you get a little bit tired or if the line is challenging, sometimes it can do that. Yeah, or sometimes, I mean, because one of the things I notice for myself, I'm really good at sight reading, and part of sight reading is reading ahead of what you're saying. So I'll usually be two or three words in terms of my reading of the line. I'll be two or three words ahead of what my mouth is actually voicing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if you're just a little bit tired or something's distracted you or whatever it is, I find myself behind what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So then you're always catching up to your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you start, that's when you start messing up.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's kind of like when you're reading a book or something like that, and you've got that kind of internal thing, like, you know what I mean? And or maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I just out.
No, I don't know if this is what you're describing, but I notice for myself, sometimes I'll be reading a book, and I love reading. I'll be reading a book and I'll suddenly realize that I've been reading and I've just gone through a whole paragraph and I didn't take any of it in because my brain suddenly went somewhere else. And I was thinking about something else that I need to do. And my eyes were still reading. I was still reading words, but the meaning of the words just
like
wasn't even there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter actually that you're building a home studio. I don't know if that's what you're inside of.
I'm sitting in it now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's finished.
It's sort of. I think these kind of things are always works in progress.
Yeah.
You're always figuring out what you can do better, how you can do it differently, how you can adapt the space to your changing needs. But yeah, it's done. I'll show you. I'll take fantastic. You on a little tour. Can't take this too far. So what I built this frame. Mm-hmm. Oop, where'd it go? Hello. Oh, it's still going. So I've built this frame, and it's very light, and it's really, really very economical in terms of the wood being used. And it's built into a corner of my bedroom. You can see out there. That's That's the mess of my bedroom. So it's literally in the corner of my bedroom. Um, Here's my mic,
Hmm.
and I just bought an arm. I used to have a different thing that I used for my mic, but now I've got an arm that's attached to the desk. My dog's bed down there.
Very cute.
Um, yeah, and I've got
Ah,
my tea and my coffee and my
very
stuff like that.
nice.
So it's literally just built into the corner of my bedroom, um,
Hmm.
because that's the space that I had available to do this in.
Yeah.
Uh, these are acoustic blankets from a company called Vocal Booth to Go, and they soak up a lot of sound. And you'll have noticed that there's a big open space here. I've got another blanket that I stick to the frame on the outside so that I can totally close this space off.
Hmm.
Now it's not soundproof, like in a professional studio,
Hmm.
but the sound is very deadened inside. I still get, the sound of cars going past outside and things like that. So when I'm recording, I have to keep an ear towards
Hmm.
the external sounds that might be interfering with the recording. But it's a very serviceable thing. I haven't actually used this one yet for recording. Uh, 'Cause my home studio before was literally a cupboard in the hallway on the first floor landing of my house. So I was sat in the hallway with my back to my kids' bedroom doors, literally sticking my head into a cupboard that was built really well. I mean, I did a really good job getting that space sorted out, and it worked brilliantly for the last three and a half or 4 years. But it was, for various reasons, it was time for me to upgrade a bit. And one of the things that drove the decision to build this new studio, among many other things, was this chair that I'm sitting in,
Nice.
ironically. So I'll just show you real quick.
Oh,
Woohoo!
nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So
Classy.
Secret Lab chair, made by Secret Lab, and little plug for Secret Lab
Very
there.
nice.
So Secret Lab reached out to me recently and offered me a free chair, um, if I would do a little bit of uh, promotion work to
Hmm.
kind of to promote
Yeah.
this new edition of their Titan Evo 2022 Witcher Edition chair. There you go. There you go. Secret Lab.
It's
Um,
another chair.
yeah. So I had this beautiful chair, and I put it all together, and I had nowhere for it to go. It was just sat in my kind of dining room kitchen area, and I didn't know what to do with it. And then my wife and I are doing some renovations on the house, and I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, my little home studio that's working fine isn't going to be useful. I'm not going to be able to use it because we're doing all this work in the hallway. So I'm going to have to find a temporary solution for that. And then my wife had this idea that she talked about before of using this corner of the bedroom for a as an office for me. And she brought it up again. She said, well, maybe you can use that corner of the room. We could get that set up, and you could use that as an office, and maybe it could just be a temporary vocal booth. Then I went, no, it can be a permanent vocal booth. It can be an office and a vocal booth. Because I was moving between an office space in my bedroom, as many of us did during the pandemic, but mine just became a little bit more permanent. And then I would have to pack up my computer and various other things and go back to my cubby hole, I called it, for voice work. So I just suddenly hit upon this idea, you know, I could just make a bigger voice booth that doubles as an office. So that's what I've done.
Oh, it looks nice. I like the aesthetic. It matches the chair.
Yeah, it works, and it works really well. And it's kind of nice because, for a long time, I mean, my cubby hole in the hallway was great, and I loved it when I first built it because it was a space I could go to and do my thing, whatever that happened to be. But it wasn't very big,
Mm.
so now I've got a bit more space. I can stretch my legs out. I can sit in this lovely chair. If I want to, I can put the other blanket up and close this space off and have it be, more private or whatever. Um, And yeah, I'm looking forward to doing my first recordings in here eventually.
That's exciting. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
It seems like it was quite a painless operation to put it up.
Oh,
Oh no, maybe not. Maybe not.
nothing is ever what it seems. um, I suppose it was, if you consider, how many things could have gone wrong.
Mm,
But my wife, she has a degree in engineering, um, mechanical engineering. So she's quite good with things like that. So she designed all this, um, and we based it on the design of a gazebo that we bought last summer, for the garden. So she had this idea in her head of how we could put this together. So she put together a really, really good design. And then, I mean, I'm greatly oversimplifying it because I had a lot of input into the design and various things about it as well. But she designed it all, um, and crunched all the numbers, and I just screwed things and grunted.
mm. Occasionally in Geralt voice.
Yeah.
That's funny. That would have been funny to be a fly on the wall for it.
Yeah, there were moments when the air turned blue around me, and you know, uh,
That's yeah.
my wife had to tell me off for
That's
getting pissed off about little things.
yeah. But I guess that's why she was captain of the ship.
I have to give her credit. She says about me, I suck when it comes to spilt milk. I'm terrible with spilt milk, but I'm amazing in a crisis. So
Yeah. So when the milk's
that
kind of about to spill, action mode.
yeah, then I'm great. Then that's
Yeah.
I'm good at reaching out and stopping the milk from spilling. But once the milk is spilled, I just lose it.
Yeah. It's gonna soak into the carpet.
It's gonna stink. It'll
Yeah.
never come out. It's gonna turn blue and purple,
Yeah.
and the dog's gonna lick it. And yeah,
That's a good metaphor. I like that. Um, I don't know if you can notice, but my chair squeaks a bit. It's terrible.
yeah, yeah.
I need to do some promotion work.
Well, this is fairly new. I don't know how old your chair is,
Hmm,
but this one's fairly new, so it hasn't developed squeaks yet. I'm sure it will over time.
yeah. And then you get angry about it. Oh, these squeaks, they'll never stop.
I know, I know.
Um, okay. So kind of coming towards the end, I tend to just throw in like a reverent question, I suppose. Like, um, so what is the absolute last thing on your mind?
The last thing, yeah, it reminds me of a joke. There's a great joke. It's what went through the fly's mind just before it hit the windshield?
I don't know.
It's asshole.
Yeah, yeah. That kind of
Or is it what went through the fly's mind as it hit the windshield?
yeah.
It's asshole.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Sorry, I don't know what your target audience is here. You
No,
might have to.
it's fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, I guess that joke
What?
kind of doubles off as you probably weren't thinking about it when you woke up.
Well, the last thing on my mind. I mean, what do you mean? Like, as in, what was the last big thought I had today? Or
No, I mean like what is it that you're thinking of? What's the bottom of the list of things you're thinking of?
the bottom of the list of things
Yeah.
I'm thinking of? God, nobody's ever asked me a
No,
question like that. I don't even know how to answer that.
I've never asked a question like that.
Um, I don't know. I mean, what's the last thing you're thinking of? Let me turn it around on you. How would
um,
you answer that?
you know, the little, on like bicycles where you pump the
Yeah,
air, the little caps on it.
yeah.
Probably them.
Why are you thinking of?
That's the last thing I'm. That is the thing I'm thinking of the least.
Oh my goodness. I have no idea. I have too many big things on my mind, I
That's
think.
okay. I can accept the joke. I'll accept the joke as the last
Yeah,
thing.
take the joke as my answer.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a good one. It was fun. It's a fun joke. Right. Okay. So that's fantastic. It's great. Been great to have you and to talk to you. Um, it's just been extremely gratifying to get the opportunity. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me on.